Hey, what's up? Welcome back to Left 4 Dead Garage, where you got the mini truck edition today. We're putting a BellTech 5.7 drop on this thing, 5.6, I don't know. We got my help here today. It's his truck, so we're probably just gonna stand around and watch him work today and me not do much of nothing. But 89, I think, S10, 4.3 automatic. Probably gonna paint this truck. Definitely got another bed because it somehow or another got this massive amount of awful right here, but barely bumped the cab, which if it had hit the cab, I don't think we'd have even bothered with it. But still a disaster on the inside. I had to replace the entire dash harness. I don't know how the truck didn't burn down, but when we got it, nothing works. Everything works now, starts, runs. The AC actually even functions, but had a good bench seat in it. That was another selling point, and it was all gray. So, but everything that it is missing, we've already located in the gray. So carpets, that'll even clean up good. But for a first truck, I don't really think you could go wrong. It's a pretty solid rig, but got it all pressure washed, cleaned up. I was gonna move it back forward on the concrete pad. We're not working way back there, but I really don't feel like setting it down, putting the wheels on it, setting it down and moving it, and then doing it all over again. So I'll just work around my drain, or he'll work around my drain, because that's the guy doing the work. But we gotta get this thing ready because North Carolina has moved up the weight on driver's license this year due to this COVID mess. But as you can see, it's not a bad looking old truck. But we're gonna dig out these BellTech pieces and start knocking this thing apart. So probably just show you as we go. Maybe, I don't know, but hang in there, we'll get back to you. All right, what we got here, this kit's the big kit, the full Monty. Shocks, leaf springs, drop spindles. This box should be there's the part number. I don't know if there's a part number on these springs. I'm sure that's it. And then spindles. This should be coil springs and shocks, and then the U-bolts and the blocks. So it's everything you could need. And then these things we learned the hard way to use. Put those in this time because the other boy's S10 we had to do some. I don't remember if we put those in or what the deal was, but it was actually too low for the GTA wheels. Hopefully we don't run into that problem on this truck. If not, I know what to do. But that's what we got, full kit. Need nothing else. So I'm gonna start ripping this thing apart. He's gonna start ripping this thing apart, and I'm gonna sit back and probably drink some Coronas. So I'm gonna get him set up. No, did run across this. This is kind of hilarious. So pressure washing it and realized it was missing a caliper pin. That's good. I put new hoses on it at some point and pads, but missing a caliper pin. Also has a new gas tank under there. I didn't know that either. Oh, and the spare tire has never hit the ground. What did I say this truck was, 89? Something like that. Look at this. Brand new Tiger Paw. And Tiger Paw was the official new tire on these S10s. I know that because that silver S10 with the XO cage was brand new. Bought by my dad, and it had Tiger Paws on it. I don't know why I remember that, but and that's what it is. But he's gonna get this tore apart, and we'll get back to you with an update. So hang in there. All right, takes a 3/8 hex. Pull your caliper pins out. We'll take those to the wire wheel because they look rough. I hung the caliper by a zip tie because I didn't want the YouTube mechanics to jump on us for leaving it hanging by the brake hose. Your upper ball joint is 22mm socket. Your lower ball joint is a 24. Tie rod end is a 19. You also have to remove sway bar end links, and by the looks of these, they are not going to just unbolt, so I'll probably just take the Ziz wheel to them and cut them off, and we'll just replace those later. But got to pull the rotor, so we knock this dust cap off, and there's a cotter pin and a nut in there, castle nut. Pull the rotor, and then buzz all the ball joint junk loose. And pull that shock too. It's a 13 from the bottom, I believe, and then come in up here. It looks like about a 15. So probably should shoot a little PB sauce on that, so it'll come loose. Maybe that way I ain't got to put vice grips up here, because if not, the shock shaft will just spin and you'll get nowhere. But pressure washed under here, but I ran out of Zep to get it clean. Probably pressure wash it again before we paint. But that's what you need to get it apart. He's working on pulling cotter keys now. If they've never done that before, then it can be a chore. So I'll get back to you. All right, here's my camera phone. You got OEM spindle, BellTech spindle, part number 2100. If you look where the pin is, where your actual bearings go on the other side, you see how close it is to the upper ball joint? If you look at this one, it's moved down 3 inches. So that's how they get the drop spindle. The only bad thing about this is some wheels will have interference with the tie rod end. We will have interference with the tie rod end with the GTA wheels. You got to space them out just a little. So, if you don't know, now you know. Drop spindles. All right, I probably should have showed you how I get ball joints loose. I don't use a pickle fork or ball joint separator, whatever you're going to call it. I call it a pickle fork, because usually it wrecks the boot, even on the tie rod end. So I take somewhere around here. So most of the time, I'll take a smaller hammer and a larger hammer. I'll take the small hammer and put it like, it'll go right here. And then I'll hit the other end with this hammer, which is like a 10-pound sledge that I sawed the handle off of just for this. And then sometimes I don't even use the small hammer. You can get in here with this hammer, and it's heavy enough where you just swat that spindle or the tie rod knuckle or whatever, and it will pop loose. Don't hit the fender, because it's not healthy for the fender. I've always been kind of scared of that, but especially when you have to swing the hammer the opposite way. Like if you're left-handed, you're good. If you're right-handed and got to go left-handed, it's not good. But the other side's together, spindles on. Other than the caliper, I still have sway bar end links to put on this side. The shock's in, the spring is in. Of course, the drop spindles, we got to put the backing plate on, the dust covered 10 millimeters, 310s hold that on. Got to pull that off, bolt that on here. I'm gonna repack the bearings, slap that on, put the caliper on. Finish with the sway bar end links, and the front will be done. And then we'll move on to the back, which I sprayed everything down with PB, so hopefully everything unbolts. It should. This is not a rusty truck. This truck was actually bought at Dale Earnhardt Chevrolet in Lincoln, or Denver, whatever, Newton, that's where it's at. Dale Earnhardt Chevrolet in Newton. So it's been a North Carolina truck its whole life. Somewhere around here we still have the tag that was on this thing. But that's where we're at. When I start on the back, we'll maybe do a little better job of videoing that, but that's where we're at. All right, so the rear all right, so the front is all buttoned up. Moving to the back. All right, so you got blocks and drop leaves. So went ahead and soaked down the U-bolts, the nuts, and you're going to have to pull the springs off from the hanger, and then you got the fixed mount up here. I also have to pull the shocks loose. What I like to do is do one side at a time. Just go ahead and pull everything off this side, set it together, let it loosely hang, then go to the other side. That way you don't have the whole rear end is not out of the truck. That way the whole rear end is not, you know, just out of the truck. You can use that, like I'll use the driver's side to keep everything located and, you know, kind of level while everything on the passenger side comes apart. And then while everything's just finger tight on this side, we'll move to that side, do the same thing. And then even though it's not super tight on this side, it will keep it together and keep it, you know, it'll hold the rear end up because it's a spring under. So as long as the springs are in there, the rear end's not going to fall out, which makes it so much easier. What we'll also do is, I did not do this on the other S10 because I forgot, and plus we did that other S10 in the driveway. I want to go ahead and cut this whole bump off. We'll just take the Sawzall, or I'll probably get the plasma out since the air hose is already out, and we'll just nip that whole thing off. That should give it enough room where we won't have to C-notch it. I highly doubt this truck does any big hauling that'll have to require that. So if he wants to go lower later, then we will notch it. But for right now, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to gather up some tools. I'll show you what you need to get that loose, and we'll start knocking it loose. So you got 2 bolts. Hope you can see this. I don't have a light. 2 bolts holding up the shock. 2 nuts, studs, whatever. They might be bolts. I don't know. Let me check. Yes, they are. So you'll need a 13 wrench and a 13 socket extension to get up in here beside the rail. Everything else is 21 millimeter. The lower shock nut, all of the suspension bolts for the shackle, and this front spring eye. I'm probably making you sick. So it's all 21 socket, 21 wrench. I mean, I guess you could use channel locks and pliers if you wanted to, but I'm not. So it's pretty cut and dry, pretty simple. As long as everything comes out, which it should. I say that now, and it probably won't. I'm gonna get this side dropped and I'll show you, but hang tight. Here goes a comparison of the stock leaf versus the drop leaf. You can see that the arch is much less, and it's got a little shorter leaf pack as far as the third leaf, and it doesn't have the overload. So I imagine you could probably put the overload back if you wanted it, but, and there's a front and the back of the spring. Spring pin may not be centered on these. I've never checked them, never had a need to. But, and then that clearly says front. So if you mess that up, then, you know, I want to reconsider some stuff. But they do go in one way. But you can also play with these things if you're doing like custom suspension, like say you wanted a solid axle swap this thing, kind of like the S10 that I have. If you want to gain wheelbase, you can flip this, push the rear end back a couple inches, because some springs are not centered on the center pin. So just keep that in mind. All right, you might want to take note on this. If you're watching this before you do yours, you'll either have to drop your gas tank or go to the junkyard and just go ahead and snag you a spring bolt. I happen to have a spare because I've parted out a ton of 99 and up trucks, and that's all pretty similar. It is a metric bolt. I can't remember what diameter it is, so I can check that if you want to know. But if not, I would just go to the junkyard and pull one out, any other corner except for that one, unless you want to drop your gas tank. I do not want to do that. So I am going to take the side grinder with the cutoff blade, and I'm just going to cut that bolt off and knock it out, and then I'll put the bolt back through from this direction right here. So that's my plan, just FYI. I don't remember having to do that with the blue truck, but yeah, I don't remember running into that, unless I did the same thing and I just don't remember. So, but either way, now you know. Well, a couple hours later, you know, it ain't really that big a task. I've done one before and lowered other things, so maybe that's where I'm coming from. I've got to get some spring rubbers for these coil springs just so he can use these GTA wheels a little while, unless he finds something in the meantime. Probably going to look for like a 15x8 and like a 15x5. He wants bigs and littles, so I'd love to run across a set of welds, drag lights, or Pro Stars, maybe a set of those cheap Jegs wheels. He's not real picky, so but at the moment this is what we're working with. It's not a bad looking old truck. I personally like the GTA wheels, and those are the same wheels that was on my other boy's S10, but it's really not a bad looking little truck. If you got any questions, comments, concerns, what have you, go ahead and ask them. Got to do spring rubbers and a couple other things, and then we're going to pull this molding off, this door trim, and he will be running the 3M rubber wheel, which that's several hours of work probably. And we're probably not going to much worry about the bed, because I am changing the bed anyway, so we'll have to get this truck scuffed and ready to spray. I may even look into one of those Mako type paint jobs. I don't know. I may ask a couple people to give me a hand on this. I hate asking for help, I really do. I hate bothering people, but this is what we came up with. A BellTech 5.7 drop, I believe is what it is. Well, thanks for watching Left 4 Dead Garage, the mini truck edition, and we'll see you on the next one. Later, guys.